Not too long ago, Honda Australia promised that it was going to offer a wider range of hybrid models. And so that means for the 2025 Honda HEV, you can now get an entry-level hybrid. And that arrives alongside an entry-level petrol, plus the top-spec hybrid that you could get previously. That expansion is set to trickle down to other models too. Right now, you can only get hybrids in flagship versions of the ZR-V and the CR-V. But before too long, just like this car, you'll be able to buy lower spec hybrid versions as well. But of course, Honda isn't the only brand to offer a hybrid small SUV in Australia. There's a plethora of models to pick from. So, in the grand scheme of things, how does the new HEV hybrid stack up? Now, it may not look like it at first glance, but there have been some minor revisions to the styling. The HRV retains its body-coloured louver grille, but now it's a little bit slimmer and a little bit squarer at the edges. Plus, if you want to win at Car Nerd Pub Trivia, this version has 7 louvers in its grille, and before the update, it had 9. The bumper bar itself has been modified too. It's now a little bit more chiseled in the lower bumper, and it seems like Honda's gone to a lot of effort for a really small change. Unlike the petrol version, the HEV X specification gets gloss black plastics on the lower bumpers and around the wheel arches, and it rides on a set of two-tone 18-inch wheels, but they're a carryover design from before. Another carryover feature that's great from a design perspective but does create some practicality issues are the hidden rear door handles. They're set up high on the doors, and so if you've got smaller kids or anyone that hasn't ridden in the car previously, they may struggle to either find them or reach them. The rear bumper is a carryover item as well, but the taillights have been updated. They get darkened internals and a new, more linear theme for the red elements. The HRV range has been given a midlife facelift for 2025 with slightly different styling up front, some revised interior storage details, and minor tweaks to equipment. Despite being the base model, the HEV X comes with 18-inch alloy wheels, LED head and tail lights, electric park brake, rear privacy tint, single-zone climate control, a leather-trimmed steering wheel, and a 4-speaker stereo. The hybrid version, the HRV HEV X, adds more like LED fog lights and scrolling indicators, gloss black exterior trim, an acoustic windscreen, heated front seats with leather look bolsters, a 6-speaker sound system, and extra safety tech like blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. Pricing for the Honda range in Australia is under a no negotiation fixed price model. The range starts from $34,900 drive away, but the hybrid version shown here is $5,000 more expensive, priced from $39,900 drive away. Honda's need to expand its hybrid range in the small SUV class is obvious. Alongside the Toyota Corolla Cross and CHR, the HRV also faces off against hybrid rivals like the Nissan Qashqai, Hyundai Kona, GWM Haval Jolion, and soon the MG ZS. If you're shopping for a small SUV, or any car for that matter, you'll find thousands of new and used cars to pick from at Drive Marketplace. Head to the link on your screen to take a look. Despite being a small SUV, the HRV is reasonably generous inside, but there is one dimension where it is slightly lacking, and that is headroom. I know that looks okay, but this is really close to your scon as you get in and out, and I find that I kind of have to duck under. Once you're in though, it's actually much better. Typical things that you find in a lot of cars now, there's a horizontally oriented dash, and everything is designed to emphasize the feeling of width and spaciousness. That's all pretty par for the course in this class. Compared to the old HRV, Honda has remodeled the center console. It doesn't look hugely different, but now you get 2 storage spaces, but neither one is a wireless phone charger. That's reserved for the highest grade only. One of my favorite Honda elements from just about every car is present, and that is the world's clickiest and nicest climate controls. The materials in here are kind of par for the class. You get fabric seats. The hybrid version gets synthetic leather bolsters. They're missing on the petrol car. You get soft touch elements on parts of the dash, and you get a really nice leather steering wheel. There's a little bit of extra storage apart from those 2 spots. You get cup holders here, And of course, shallow center console, plus the glove box and bottle holders in the doors, although they're not too big. Other than that, the driver faces an instrument cluster that has an analog speedo and a digital display alongside that you can configure for things like the hybrid system or fuel economy or turn-by-turn navigation. And then there is a 9-inch infotainment system. Honda's basic layout is, I guess it's just that. It is basic, but it's really easy to understand. You can configure it to the way you want and tailor the layout of the tiles. And it has CarPlay and Android Auto, and they're available wirelessly. So if you'd rather use your phone and keep everything within that ecosystem, you can do that easily enough, and it's ready to go every time you jump in without having to plug in. One other cool feature in here that isn't typical of the segment are these air vents. And I don't think I've seen this feature on anything other than high-end luxury cars. You can choose direct air blowing at your face or diffused air that kind of skirts around you and fills the cabin. And these vents too have the same nice clicky feel to them. Anyone else has got a good clicky feel? The subscribe button. So go ahead, tap that, turn on the notification bell, and you won't miss a single video that we make from this point on. One of the big lures of the back seat of the HRV isn't its space for people, although that's pretty good too. It's this. The seats can fold down like a normal car and let you load long items. But the HRV is one of the last Hondas in Australia with magic seats that flip up. And that means that if you need to carry anything that's tall that you maybe don't want to tip over, like a pot plant, you can do that easily too. Actual seat space is pretty decent too. I'm 169 centimeters, so I'm not the tallest person in the world, but I've got heaps of leg room. So there's a lot of space back here. But there's space for 2 people only. This center seat isn't actually a seat at all. And that's specific to Australian cars. Because of the requirement for a top tether for a child seat, Honda has elected instead to just take the seat out, and it means that they don't have to change spec that exists in other countries in the world. Now, of course, you get a pair of cup holders in the folding armrest. You get a bottle holder in the door. And that's kind of it. There's no air vents in the back of the center console, although you do get those on the top spec model. Instead, you get extra storage up here and down here. Plus, of course, there are mat pockets in the backs of the front seats. It's a good spot if you just want to stretch out, but it's not a great spot if you need to fiddle with things or you're looking for gadgets. That ultimately, it's all about the space and the versatility that this area represents. So being able to carry people or things uninhibited is where the HRV really excels. Even with all that versatility, there's a relatively compact 304 litres boot space with the rear seats up, but if you fold those down, you get 1,274 litres of cargo room. The cargo blind is cleverly attached to the tailgate, but you can remove it if you need to, and then it folds up like a windscreen shade. As well as that, there's this compact space under the boot floor, and I have absolutely no idea what it's good for because it's really quite deep and narrow. So if you've got any ideas, drop me a note in the comments below. But if you're looking for a spare wheel, there isn't one. The HRV range comes with a tyre repair kit, and you'll find that tucked away in the side of the boot. It's no powerhouse, but the hybrid system in the HRV combines a non-turbo 1.5 litre engine and a 2-motor hybrid system. Combined, that produces 96 kilowatts and 253 newton meters. And those figures aren't groundbreaking, but they are reasonably solid for the small SUV segment. Power is then sent to the front wheels through what Honda calls an eCVT transmission. But it's not really a CVT. It works like a series hybrid at low speeds, which means if the petrol engine is running, it's charging the battery, and then power is sent to the front wheels from the electric motor. And at higher speeds, the petrol motor can drive the wheels directly. But the takeaway is you don't get the droning or the feel of gear changes like you would get in a traditional transmission. There are no gear changes as such, but the acceleration is really quite linear, as we're about to find out. The HRV's hybrid system does a pretty solid effort of everything that you want it to do around town. It is fairly quiet, so there's no additional noise or vibration that you wouldn't expect, and it's fairly frugal, like a hybrid should be. Official fuel consumption for this car is rated at 4.3 litres per 100 kilometres, and at the moment I'm sitting on about 4.8 litres, which is pretty decent, and all I've been doing is running around town and to and from work, doing short trips and stop-start driving, which is the enemy of good fuel consumption. Because the way that this hybrid setup is designed, it will always try and run a little bit like an EV. The petrol engine may be running, but all it's doing is charging the battery, which then runs the electric motor. That makes it really quite smooth and linear off the line, and there's no shunting or delay. It's responsive without being overeager, and it just sort of works really well. I say it's EV-like. It is a little bit more sluggish, and it doesn't have the phenomenal acceleration that you would expect from an electric vehicle, but it's not timid either. It's certainly able to keep up with the cut and thrust of rushing traffic. Out of town, it's pretty good too. On the highway, it's quite stable and settled, which is good. The ride comfort is absolutely fine over things like potholes and tarmac joins. Nothing ricochets into the cabin too badly, and it's mostly quiet. You get a little bit of tyre rumble, but nothing obscene or too hard to live with. The compact size means that it's really easy to pick the corners of the car. You sit quite high, so you can see over the bonnet entirely, and the steering is light and the handling is absolutely inoffensive. So it's easy to park, and it's just easy to deal with day to day. A long time ago, Honda used to be known as the Japanese BMW, and to a degree that is still somewhat true. This is a nicely finished car. It has a kind of premium feel. You're not going to confuse it for a BMW, but it's dynamically just a little bit better than most of the competitors in its class. So, when you add it all up, the HRV gives you a lot to like. And speaking of likes, if you've enjoyed this video so far, why not tap the like button? It shows us that we're doing the right thing, and it gives us the opportunity to bring you even more videos. The HRV range was tested by ANCAP in 2022, resulting in a 4-star safety rating. While adult and pedestrian protection ratings were high enough for a 5-star score, the individual child occupant and safety assist scores were under the 5-star threshold. All models come with autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, speed sign recognition, tyre pressure monitoring, and adaptive cruise control. When you step up to one of the hybrid models, you get adaptive headlights, blind spot monitoring, and rear cross traffic alert. Honda's sophisticated hybrid system is a winner, so making it available across a wider range of models is only a good thing. If you're looking for a small SUV that is quiet, refined, and truly compact enough to be city-friendly, then the HRV really nails that brief. But I think this isn't a one-size-fits-all car. I reckon for singles or couples before they have kids, or maybe for empty nesters that are downsizing, this is probably the better fit. There are some limitations, and that middle child seat being one of them, that rule this out as a fit-all or a second car for families. But what I've covered here today is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a heap more detail about this car and thousands more at Drive.com.au. Head there and you can read the full review. Now, if you're settling in for a YouTube binge, why not check out the Cherry Tiggo 4? We've done a video on that car right here. It's not a hybrid, but it is Australia's cheapest compact SUV, and I reckon you might like it.